everybody out there in Radio Land. Welcome to Access Consciousness with Rikka Zimmerman, live on the World Puja Network. Tonight we have a very, very, very special guest. Now, this man has changed more in my life than I ever thought was possible. He has given me more of me than I even knew existed. I have so much gratitude for this man, who he bees in the world, how he bees with everyone. Literally, he runs around the world changing everybody's lives, showing them the gift that they are and the gifts they can be for everyone around them. And his name is Dr. Dain Heer. So I'd like to introduce my good friend, Dr. Dain Heer. Dane?
Hey, Rikka. Thank you so much for having me. It's a great pleasure to be here.
Oh, you're welcome. We're really excited. They've heard so much about you through me that they're like, oh, who is this guy? I want to listen to him.
Cool. Well, let's talk. Let's see, let's see what change we can create today.
Wonderful. So I hear you are releasing a book called Being You, Changing the World. And what I would like to offer all the listeners out there all over the world is just an hour with you. So I would like you to take them wherever it is you want to go in the universe, to give them some of the tools that will assist them in being themselves and changing the world too.
Sounds like a plan to me, my dear. Thank you for asking. Thanks for the invitation. An open invitation like that is a really fun thing. It's like, ooh, what else is possible? What else can we do? So let me just talk a little bit about how I got into Access Consciousness. 11 years ago, I was a chiropractor starting my second practice. I had a fiance who everybody just thought was the most wonderful person in the world, and I lived in Paradise, Santa Barbara, California, and I would wake up every morning depressed and unhappy and not knowing how I was going to change things. And I finally made a demand on the universe because I got tired of waking up unhappy. And I'd heard so many times in the metaphysical work I'd done, or the spiritual work, or even one of the psychologists that I went to at one point said, well, you're an infinite being. And I kept thinking, well, then why does my life look the way it does? If I'm an infinite being, shouldn't I at least be able to wake up happy? And
yeah, you would think so, right?
Right? I mean, infinite. And I looked at that, and I looked up the word, and it went undefinable. And I'm like, well, great. Thanks a lot. And what I realized is if we're an infinite being, we should have all these capacities, but those weren't showing up for me. And I got to the point where I said, universe, here's the deal. You have 6 months. Either my life changes or I'm killing myself, and I don't care which it is, but I've got to start waking up happy and feeling contributed to. And a week later, I saw an ad for Access Consciousness, had a session, and it was the first sense of peace I'd had in almost 3 years. It was the first time I remembered knowing everything was okay, everything always had been, and everything always would be. And the last 11 years has been this wonderful exploration of how to give people more of that and how they can have it in their own lives, and how they can have the tools to create it in their life when they're driving down the freeway and they're in rush hour traffic and their kids are screaming and they're worried about their bills and they don't know what the heck to do. Those are the times when you need tools. And that's really what this stuff is. And so I'd love to say to people, no matter what the situation is, no matter what you have going on that you want to change, Access Consciousness may be a way of changing it, and and only you know. So I wrote this book, Being You, Changing the World, and I called it that because I wanted people to realize that you being you will not only change your life, but it will contribute to changing everyone around you. Have you ever been in a situation where all kinds of people were, say, doing trauma and drama about something, and you came in and you said, hey, you know what, guys, what if it didn't have to be that way? And they all looked at you kind of funny at first, but then if you went a little further and said, what questions could we ask here to change the situation? And if you see that you in that situation were the invitation to something different, you realize that that's the only thing that ever has changed the world, is the dreamers like us, the people that know there's something different and know it should be possible, but haven't necessarily yet allowed ourselves to choose it, or haven't allowed ourselves to choose it in the totality with which we might. And what this book is about is opening that up by looking at the places where we've been limiting ourselves without even knowing it, and using this wonderful access processing to change it, and then presenting you with some different possibilities of what might be possible in a world that totally involved you.
Wow, that's beautiful, Dane.
So, I was reading the book to a few friends of mine as I was going through the editing process, and one of my friends burst into tears and said, wow, you know what? It's like, this is the kind of thing people need to know is possible. Because what I see out there in the world is, and I call myself a dreamer. John Lennon, you may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. And the more of us that are willing to realize that those dreams that we have, even that don't match other people's realities, or that don't match other people's judgments, or that exceed other people's limited points of view and their willingness to look at them, those are the dreams that will create a different possibility. A lot of us look around the world and we see things like global warming going unchecked, and consumption and natural disasters, and there's all kinds of predictions about things from 2012 to us consuming too much of the planet to be able to live on, and all these sorts of things. And a lot of times I think what happens for people is the problems that are there look so big to them that they think, well, if I'm not as big as Oprah, I can't change it. And what I would say is, you know what? Oprah's doing everything she can, and the world is looking the way it is. It takes each of us to actually step into being the leaders that we are to create the change that's actually possible. So, that's my little soapbox for the beginning of the program. But I'd really like people to know that you being you, and what I mean by that is you being everything you are without judging it and without having to try to cut it off or make it wrong, creates such an invitation for other people to be them that the dreams that you've had over the course of your life can start to come alive and become a reality.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us have probably made ourselves even wrong for being a dreamer. Our parents would say, get your feet on the ground, get your head out of the clouds. So instead of supporting and encouraging those dreams, we've even been made wrong for seeing and knowing that there is something else that's possible.
Exactly that. If a parent could say, hey, keep your head in the clouds, and you know what? I'm also going to show you how to do this reality really well. Because it seems that we've created this either-or situation. Because we've been made wrong for dreaming, we stop dreaming. But at the same time, we don't seem to do this reality very well because our heart's not in it and because it doesn't include us. And so we're sort of in this limbo or stuck place. And, we'll try a technique, or we'll try a book or something, and it'll make us feel better for a little while. But then we feel like we're back to the same old place. What I'd like to gift people, what I'd like people to know is possible, is that the change you're actually looking for is truly possible. And you don't have to go back to the same old place anymore. Let's just continue moving forward by actually undoing all the places in the past that you've used to limit the creation of your present and the creation of a different possibility for the future.
That's beautiful. Now, all of these guys out here have listened to shows number 1 through 4, and if you haven't had a chance to listen to the first foundational shows, 1 through 4, go back and listen to them. So I think we'll probably start some of the actual processing. So if Dane starts talking and saying all these weird words that you don't know what they mean, just go back in the archives and listen to show 1 through 4, and it'll start making sense to you. So all of these guys should have had actually that basis of information. So you can feel free to, run processes or kind of, show them what it would be like to actually be them in the world and what that would be.
Cool. So let's do something about this dreamer idea, because a dreamer, like you were saying, a dreamer is not made out to be a good thing in this reality. Like you said, get your head out of the clouds. But you know what? That head in the clouds is what is the beginning of creating totally different possibilities. So let's ask this question, so that if we can at least knock some of the cobwebs off of what are keeping people from having a little more of that, I think it might make the day a little brighter for everybody. So let's do this. So what dream have you had your entire life that you know should be able to be reality, but because you created it as a fantasy, hasn't been able to show up here? Everything that is times a godzillion. Will you destroy and create it, please?
Yeah.
Right, wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, and meows. Okay, that's a little bit of a complex process, I realize. So let's simplify it a little bit. What dream have you always had that you knew should be able to show up that hasn't? Everything that doesn't allow it to show up now, everything that doesn't allow you to know how to create it and know how to use this reality on your behalf to your benefit, will you destroy and create it, please?
Yeah.
Times a godzillion, right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, pod, pock, shorts, boys, and beyonds.
And I think when you say, sorry, to your benefit, it's almost like people think that that's a wrongness. Or if you were, like if I was making everything work for my benefit, the whole world would work. Like we wouldn't be consuming the planet. So I think people feel like they don't want stuff to work to their benefit because it would be bad, except if you're on the team for consciousness, you're actually choosing a different possibility.
Absolutely, and that's such a big thing, is that we don't want to be selfish. We don't want to be like those people we see around us where it seems to be only about them and it's never a contribution to anybody else. But one of the things you have to get is, just like you said, if your desire is more consciousness, what you desire to create and bring into the world and actually having it will create greater possibilities for everybody. So everything that doesn't allow you to know that, everything you've done to believe that having anything for you means you're selfish, will you destroy and uncreate it, please?
Yeah.
Right, wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, and meows. And since we're on that particular subject, here's something you really need to know. And that is that people always accuse you of what they themselves are doing. Well, what do I mean? Well, when somebody's accusing you of being selfish, guess why? 99% of the time it's because they're actually somebody who's selfish. Or if they're accusing you of ignoring them, most of the time it's because they're ignoring you. And because you're one of those people, one of those dreamers, one of those people who sees things differently and would never judge somebody else, you try to see the rightness in their point of view, even though it's a lie, even though it's actually a wrongness and they're telling you something about you that's not true. You try to believe it is true. So all the lies that you've bought from other people about you and about how wrong you are and about how stupid you are and about how flighty you are and about how you'll never work, you'll never amount to anything, will you now acknowledge that those are lies, and will you destroy and create it, please?
Gladly.
Times a godzillion, right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, pod, pock, shorts, boys, and beyond. This is very interesting because most of us have sort of spent our lives believing in the wrongness of us and believing that that must be the case and must be true. What if that difference that we are, what if that willingness to desire a different possibility in the situations you're in and in the world itself were the greatest rightness and the greatest gift that there is? What if that, and what if enough of us could see that in ourselves and not judge it, and actually be it with such a presence and an unwillingness to waver and let it go, that we could literally allow it, that we could be that energy that would create that possibility in the world. So, there's this idea of this thing called the 100th monkey, book was written about it and all that sort of thing. And basically the idea was that the scientists were studying monkeys on these islands that were separated by water. And the monkeys were having problems with food, and so they started dropping crates of food that would break on impact. The food would open, but it would get dirty. Now, the monkeys ate the food, dirty as it was, and then at one point, one monkey started washing the food. He went down to the ocean, washed it off, and, that actually worked out a lot better. And so all of his friends were like, ooh, that's a good idea, so they went and did it. Finally, when 100 monkeys on that one island started washing their food, all the monkeys on all the islands simultaneously, within a matter of days, started washing their food. Why?
Wow.
Because right? I know, pretty cool, eh?
Yeah, really cool.
And you say, well, why did that happen? Because the consciousness of something that was greater for everyone permeates. So consciousness always desires more of itself. It always desires the easiest option, the one that creates the most possibilities. If we were willing to be that, we would be the contribution like the 100th monkey. And with enough of us desiring that, the unconsciousness, and, we talk about consciousness and unconsciousness, and, I have this weird delusion that people are supposed to know what I'm talking about, even though, most people think, well, my eyes are open, I must be conscious. All I mean with consciousness is it's basically just where everything exists and nothing is judged. So there's kindness, there's caring, there's generosity, there's also sadness, there's also loneliness, there's every possibility that can exist, but none of it is judged. If you had that, you'd create a world where there was this gentleness and peace and space, and there would be no separation between any of us. And so what I invite people to is, what if rather than being an airy-fairy notion, what if being more conscious would actually allow you to more easily pay your bills? What if it would allow you to create greater relationships? What if it would allow you to have better sex? What if it would allow you to heal your body and actually enjoy your body instead of not liking your body and judging it all the time? What if it would actually allow you to have more money? Those are actually the side benefits of becoming more conscious, and yet most people go, well, I don't have time to pursue consciousness. I got to go to my work, and I got to pay my bills, and I have kids and all that. And they go, yeah, you want it to be easier? The more conscious you get, the more that's going to happen. And so
one thing I've heard you say, too, is that consciousness is the easiest state to maintain, which I thought it really, struck something in my universe. It's like, wow, we have to, maintain and water all these plants of judgment and conclusion and separation. And if we actually just, allowed that to dissipate, it actually would. Yeah,
that. And that's exactly it. It's the easiest state to maintain. Because when you have any polarized, which is a positive or a negative point of view, you're out of that functioning from the ease of consciousness, and you're into something that it requires your energy to be put into to maintain and hold that thing in place. And that's one of the things that I talk about in the book, is that it takes huge amounts of energy to hold fixed points of view in place, and most of us don't actually desire to do it. It's just that we learn that that's the way it had to be. We got our little body and we were like, okay, here I am. I'm ready to do it, And we kind of start our little energetic feelers and we're like, oh, but how do they do it here, And your mom was doing judgment and your dad was doing judgment and they were doing, money problems and they were doing relationship problems and they were doing this and doing that. And you're like, oh, that's how they do it here. Okay, that's how I'll do it. And most of us haven't asked very many questions about the fundamentals of reality to allow us to change it so that we could have a fundamental reality based on consciousness and ease and joy and possibilities.
Wow.
So everything that all brought up for everybody, and everywhere where your head is spinning already because it's been quite a heady conversation, can we just run and create everything that doesn't allow that to turn into total space now, please?
Yeah.
Thank you. Right, wrong, good, and bad. Times a godzillion. Right, wrong, good, bad, all nine. Pod, poc, shorts, boys, and meons. So, we've covered quite a few things. You've been kind enough to give me free rein here. Is there anything your listeners would like to know more of or hear about?
Well, one probably. You've given me so many gifts, Dane. It's kind of hard to pick which one I want to give to everyone out there. One of the things that you've been so incredibly amazing with me with, and I watch you be it so dynamically with other people, is sort of showing them who they really are. And that's why the Being You and Changing the World is like, I'm so excited about this book, because it'll actually give people, all the information and tools and techniques and everything to actually have that. Now, when I met you, I didn't really want to know who I was, because I thought if I uncovered all the stuff I had put on top, I was going to find something that I didn't want to know I was, which is bad and wrong and awful and evil and terrible and manipulative and all kinds of stuff. So I don't know if I'm speaking, if you guys are feeling the same out there, but for me I was like, oh, but if I uncover this stuff, then I'm going to find that I'm really wrong and I don't really want to know that. So and you sort of be this presence with that information of people creating this place where they think they are wrong, they think they're bad, and they think they're terrible and awful. You be this space that has intruded into my universe and shown me that I'm actually not that. I'm actually like this beautiful, big, radiant light of yumminess that's a gift to me and everyone around me. So I wonder if we can, maybe sort of access some of the processing around that for everyone out there so that they can begin to let their light shine and let their infinite being out and allow themselves to be who they really are.
So this is an interesting I love the idea, and I'm going to do it with the caveat that an hour to do so is it's an interesting challenge. Let's put it that way. In other words,
and that's the thing too with this. It's like I've been doing this for 8 years. This is going to be an ever-changing, ever-evolving process. I've also done, maybe 6 energetic synthesis of being classes and another, 8 private sessions, and every one has been completely monumental. So just know, everybody out there, this is like the tip of the iceberg, and there's more. You can find Dane at drdainheer.com, and he's everywhere all over the world. So if you want them, you can have more of them.
That was very kind.
I'd love to just take a quick second, Dane, and invite everyone to your website and the free gift you're offering everyone. So hold on for just a moment, and we'll be right back.
Hey, everybody, this is Dr. Dain Heer. Thank you so much for listening to me and Rikka Zimmerman on Access Consciousness with Rikka Zimmerman. What would it be like if you knew you weren't alone out there in the world anymore pursuing this idea of consciousness? What if you could have somebody there with you in your inbox every couple of weeks, delivering a new tool, maybe a piece of inspiration, maybe just an object of beauty, something that is videotaped that you could see that's just this gorgeous piece of nature in the world? That's what I'd like to invite you to. I call it my Tour of Consciousness. It's actually a free video series. It's my gift to you. You just have to go to my website, accessdain.com, ACCESSDAIN.com, and click on the free video series link, put in your email address, and you'll receive every couple of weeks in your inbox a video as I travel around the world. And in the video, you'll probably see some really cool places, and I'll also share with you tools to change some of the things in your life, some of the really simple access tools, or a new tool that I've discovered just prior to filming the video. Who knows what it'll be? Just go to accessdain.com, look for the free video series, and I invite you to come along with me on the Tour of Consciousness.
All right, everybody, we're back. Welcome to Access Consciousness with Rikka Zimmerman. I'm interviewing Dr. Dain Heer, who's just about to release a book called Being You and Changing the World. And we were just about to get into a really juicy, amazing topic about getting out of the wrongness of you. So, Dr. Dain, you got the floor.
Okay, well, here we go. So one of the things that we've done is we've actually made ourselves a slave to the idea that we are wrong. So, and anything how did we come up with this word slave? It's just what read energetically. I was talking with my best friend, the founder of Access, Gary Douglas, and I was saying, Gary, okay, so this has happened, this has happened, this has happened, and I still feel like I'm a slave to this area of my life. And he went, wait, what'd you just say? I went, I feel like I'm a slave. And it read so strong energetically that we realized people actually enslave themselves in all kinds of areas. One of the greatest is to the wrongness of them. So let's do this. So what have you made yourself a slave to that keeps you from being you? Everything that is, times a godzillion, will you destroy and grade it, please?
Yeah.
Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, beyond. So I'm just going to list some of the things that come up as I run this, because what I'm doing is doing my best to actually run it on the people that are listening, which sounds really strange because you're not in the same room and all that. But, given that we're all connected, is it really that strange? So how many of you have made yourself a slave to money problems? How many of you have made yourself a slave to feeling wrong and feeling bad about you? How many of you have made yourself a slave to guilt or being guilty for everything you choose, believing that you really shouldn't choose for you, what you should choose is just for other people and their points of view? Everything that is times a godzillion, will you destroy and create it, please?
Yes, we will.
Thank you. Right and wrong, good, bad, talk, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds.
It's fun to say yes for all of them. It's the first time I've been saying yes for them.
Oh.
Yeah. And, you know, I can feel it's bringing up a lot of energy in everyone's universes, so keep going. Great job.
It's kind of interesting for you to be on the other side of the coin, isn't it? It's like, oh,
yeah.
I'm the one receiving processing too now. So what made yourself a slave to that keeps you from being you? Whew, okay, well, apparently that just went a lot deeper. So if you're listening right now and you just felt sort of like a kick in the guts, that's actually this process working to, because that kick in the guts energy is what you've been doing to yourself day in and day out, nonstop, to not allow you to be you however you are. So everything that is times a godzillion. Will you just run and create it, please?
Yeah.
Right, wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyond. Oh, my goodness. Apparently there are quite a few people with this point of view. Now, if you wanted to, you could actually take this process and run it day in and day out. Literally, when this process came up for me, I was running it probably 100 times a day or more, because I would run it every time I'd think about it. And the way you'd run it is, what am I a slave to that keeps me from being me? Everything that is times a godzillion. Will you just run and create it, please?
Yes.
Right, wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Okay, so, well, apparently I'm going to need to run this a few more times, and there's a little more I'd like to get into on this particular subject. So, what are you a slave to that keeps you from being you?
Probably us making ourselves at fault for things, or the cause of somebody else's problem or disaster or whatever.
Yes. Isn't it interesting? Like, how many of you out there know that you always make yourself wrong when something doesn't turn out right? And, I mean, it can be somebody that you barely even know. It can be somebody in a totally different cubicle on a totally different floor at work, and you find out something bad happened to them, and you're like, oh, my God, what did I do? Maybe I did something to create that. You don't even know the person. You hardly know their name, but you'll still take credit for what's wrong, but you won't ever take credit for what is done that is correct and what is right and what creates greater possibilities. So everything that is times a godzillion, will you destroy and create it, please?
Yeah.
Right, wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Oh, that's a good one. There's quite a bit of energy on that. Now, how do I know? Because I can feel it in my body. This is just like, wow. A lot of people right now are going, I don't know if I should be driving or what right now, you know? This may not be one you want to drive with. Who knows? Okay, so what have you made yourself a slave to that keeps you from being you? Everything that is times a godzillion, will you destroy and create it, please?
Yeah.
Right, wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Okay, so if you're going to run this process on your own, you would just do basically exactly what I did. What am I a slave to that keeps me from being me? Everything that is, destroy and create it, times a godzillion, right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, pot, pock, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Now, the more present you can be while you're running this, the more effective it's going to be. And the more you run it, the deeper and deeper and deeper it goes. Because this thing that we've done of making ourselves a slave to things, there's not just one little piece of it. There's not just one little piece of this particular pie. There are a whole lot of ways in which we've done this in every area of our lives. So how many of you have made yourself a slave to your parents' points of view? How many of you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And here's the weird part about it. Anything you align and agree with or resist and react to that you hold in place, you make yourself a slave to that point of view. So how does that work? Well, some people, their parents are really tight-laced, so they decide they're going to be wild and they're going to be free and they go out and do drugs and sex and rock and roll, and but do those people have any freedom, or are they just resisting and reacting to their parents' points of view? They're resisting and reacting.
Yeah, exactly.
So what it does, it actually gives them no freedom, even though they think they're doing the different thing by doing the exact opposite. So how many areas in your life are you doing the exact opposite of what somebody else does or what somebody else has as a point of view, thinking that you're doing something different, except you're really just doing the other side of the coin? So everything that is times a godzillion. Will you destroy and create it, please?
Yeah.
Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Whew. Okay, so what wrongness are you making more real than the rightness and the gift you truly be? Whew. Everything that is times a godzillion. Will you destroy and create it, please?
Yep.
Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds.
And I think what almost comes up is people going, Dane, look at the evidence. Right? No, but I've got history and evidence here to prove that I was wrong about this and that and this and that. See? And then they told me and they validated it, and then they had bad stuff happen too because of it. So that's even more wrong.
Exactly. Thank you for bringing that up. So how much evidence do you have to prove the wrongness of you that is based on lies? Everything that is times a godzillion. Will you destroy and create it, please?
Yes.
Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyond. So one of the reasons I wrote the book was because there are so many ways in which we do that to ourselves, and so many ways in which we try to buy what this reality tells us as it's the right way, except none of us, the people who want something different, the dreamers of the world, none of us can really do it that way. We try and we try and we try, and the only thing we can come up with is a judgment of us and the wrongness of us. But because we've made that so much more real than the rightness of us, somebody can come along like you and I are and have this conversation and say, no, you're far greater. Look. But that evidence seems to outweigh your hope and your willingness to dream again. So the reason I wrote the book is so that you could have enough ways of looking at things and enough of this clearing and processing in there so that you can actually clear as many of those pieces out of the way. And also there are some totally different points of view in there on things like relationship and bodies and abuse and death and all kinds of stuff. But what it's designed to do is to open it up so that you can see enough of those areas for you that you are willing, that it becomes easier to have the awareness of the rightness of you, if you will, rather than the wrongness. Mm. So
sort of like becoming our choice versus being what we've chosen in the past. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And that's exactly what it's about. And as you know, and as all your listeners know at this point, after having listened to the first 4 shows that you did, it literally what we're doing with this clearing statement is we're going back and changing that past. That past that has been so solid and impenetrable and unchangeable. And it's literally undoing it. And I got to tell you, people talk to me at this point, and they, I've been doing this 11 years, and I lead the advanced level access classes, and travel the world facilitating and everything. But 11 years ago, I was just a guy trying to get along, trying to change the things in his life and other people's lives that weren't working. And so for me, it's kind of bizarre because people look at me and go, "Oh, well, you must have all the answers and everything." I'm like, I use this stuff every single day and half of the last 11 years. And the difference in it is that the space in your life just increases. Because the more of that past you change that's been solid and limited, the more possibilities open up from your past, which create even more space in your present and create a hell of a lot more space in your future. So, I know when I talk a lot of times I sound like a dreamer, but you know what? If we don't start dreaming more, what's really the purpose of being here? If we don't start dreaming more and having more of those possibilities, why, is this reality so much fun that we'd really want to stick around and be alive? I mean, what if our dreams are actually the realities that we haven't yet been willing to acknowledge or create? So everything that doesn't allow you to know that everything you've ever dreamed of and wanted to be there and wanted to have could actually be not only that, but even greater. Will you destroy and uncreate it, please?
Yeah.
Times a gazillion, right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, pod, poc, shorts, boys, and beyonds.
And I think what we've been trying to do is be satisfied with what we've been given or make
Yes.
it right in any way. Like kind of like make do with, the plate of food that kind of sucks, but you're trying to make it taste good.
Well,
So it sucks.
this reality is a plate of food that sucks, and you're trying to make it taste good. Exactly so. And that brilliantly put. So all of this reality that you've been trying to make do with, and all of the dreams that you've had that are actually an awareness of a reality that could be created, but you decided it could only be a dream or a fantasy. Will you just run and create all that, please?
Yeah.
Times a gazillion, right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, pod, poc, shorts, boys, and beyonds. So on that note, what fantasy have you made more real than the awareness you could use to create a completely different reality? Everything that is, times a gazillion. Will you just run and create it, please?
Yeah.
Right, wrong, good and bad, pod and poc, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Oh, that's another deep well. So what fantasy have you made more real than the awareness you could use to create a completely different reality? Everything that is, times a gazillion. Will you just run and create it, please?
Yeah.
Right, wrong, good and bad, pod and poc, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds. What fantasy have you made more real than the awareness that would create a completely different reality? Everything that is, times a gazillion. Will you just run and create it, please?
Yeah.
Right, wrong, good and bad, pod and poc, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyond. A lot of our fantasies are this idea that, for example, people will be a certain way to us, or that if I just do enough in this reality, then everything will turn out right. But we also, like one of the fantasies, I worked with this guy in Montreal, and he'd created this company. He'd been at the head of it for 20 years, and then he sold it, and he made more money than God. I mean, this guy had all the money he could ever hope to use in any lifetime. And I said, so, hey, how's everything going? And he went, I just have one question for you. Is this it? And I was like, what do you mean? And he related the story to me, and I went, wow. I mean, he had the houses, he had the cars, he had the women, he even got the paycheck, and yet it wasn't enough. And so that's one of the fantasies that we have. If we can just work hard enough to get the right kids or the right family or the right, point of view about us or the right spiritual discipline or the right meditation, or if I can just eat enough raw food the right way and stop going for fried chicken every third night without telling anybody and feeling guilty about it, you know what I mean? It's like we put so many things on ourselves, but it's like this fantasy that we can finally get out of that sense of the wrongness of us by doing those things through this reality that are going to do it. There's only one way to get out of the sense of wrongness of you. Stop judging you and pock and pod every judgment that ever comes up. So, everything that all brought up, this is quite an intense interview, my dear. So if anybody's out there in radio land going, what the heck is happening? Okay, well, I'll tone it down just a little bit and try to make it a little easier from here on out. So everything that brought up for everybody, will you just run and create it, please?
Yes.
All right. Bad, pod and poc, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyond. See,
and I can hear them all. I can hear them all out there going, no, don't do it. Turn it up.
All right. Yeah, those are definitely my kind of people. The ones that are like, turn it up, don't turn it down. Okay. So here's the thing. So the other fantasies that we have, though, we have these fantasies, for example, that we're not brilliant. We have these fantasies that we don't know and that we don't have awareness. We have these fantasies that we can't actually create an easy life. But really? Is that really true? Or is that a fantasy? Well, guess what? Pretty much that's a fantasy, because what I've seen with thousands of people over the last 11 years is their lives just start to get easy and they start to enjoy them, which is, from my point of view, the way it ought to be. And I don't care if it's access consciousness that you do that gets you there. Just do whatever it's going to take that will get you there. Because, as you learned from Rikka already, the truth and something that's true will always make you feel lighter. Something that's a lie will always make you feel heavier. So follow that in your life when you're looking at, okay, will this change this? If it makes you feel lighter when you think about doing it, it'll probably change it. If it makes you feel heavier, it probably won't. Find something else. So anyway, what fantasy have you made more real than the awareness, you brilliantly aware being, than the awareness that would create a completely different reality? Everything that is times a godzillion. Will you destroy and create it, please?
Yeah.
Right, wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds.
Now, what's really cool is up until this moment, I hadn't looked at the wrongness and the judgment of self as also being a fantasy.
Yeah, kind of interesting, huh?
Yeah.
And, in running this, you think, oh, all the good things are fantasies. But, yeah, the judgments and those limitations are also these fantasies that we perpetrate on ourselves, that we're really that bad and really that wrong and really that unaware. We're not. We're far more aware and far more brilliant than we've ever given ourselves credit for. And that's what I would love to see people starting to have a twinkling of an awareness of. That would be really cool. If this radio program could just open that up even a tiny bit for people so that they could realize there's a greater possibility available and then even start choosing some of it, that would be so cool. So let's do this. Everything that doesn't allow that to show up for everybody. Let me ask you a question. How much change are you all willing to have? Look into your worlds right now and just ask, how much change am I willing to have? And would you be willing to have even a little bit more? And then everything that doesn't allow that to change, will you destroy and create it, please?
Yes.
Times a godzillion, right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, pod, pot, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Now, will that change everything? It could, not necessarily, though. And it could still change a lot of stuff that will make your life personally easier and give you more access to the space that you are. So what fantasy have you made more real than the awareness that would allow you to create a completely different reality? Everything that is times a godzillion. Will you destroy and create it, please?
Yeah.
Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyond.
Well, what it sounds like from this processing is that it would keep you from being present and present in your own life and receiving your own life, every moment of it.
That's exactly what it does. It actually keeps you from being present and receiving your own life. And here's the interesting thing that we found. In doing this processing with hundreds of people, there was a very interesting thing that came up, as it does. The way Access keeps growing and keeps changing, because it does grow and change as the world grows and changes, and it becomes more dynamic, something we couldn't get to 6 months ago, we can now handle with ease today. But one of the things that we found in working and running this process on hundreds of people is that one of the biggest lies that we bought is that we can create a greater fantasy reality than we can a real reality here. What if the reality you could create here was even greater than any fantasy you could come up with, because it could actually show up here? So everything you've done... I love
it. I'm in. That sounds like a great idea.
Cool. I'm with you. I am definitely in on this one. Everything that doesn't allow that to show up, everywhere where you've relegated fantasy to impossible, rather than realizing you can create something far greater here in this reality, if you just get over your fixed points of view, will you destroy and create it, please?
Yes.
Times a godzillion, right? Wrong, good, bad, all nine, pod, pock, shorts, boys, and beyonds. And everything that doesn't allow you to get over those fixed points of view now, will you destroy and create all those, please?
Yes.
Right, wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Okay. So that feels like it's actually lightening something up in people's worlds. Feels like...
Is anybody else out there in Radio Land just kind of smiling, going, wow, this is amazing? See, and the thing is with Access and with Dr. Dain, hearing him speak, going to his classes, being there for the energetic synthesis of being, where he's working on somebody in front of the room. By the way, everyone out here, this guy is one of the most magical, incredible body whisperers on the planet. He does this work called energetic synthesis of being, which basically changes the way that the body interacts with the being and the body and the being interact with the universe, so that he undoes everything that keeps people from being that oneness. And it's total magic. He works on someone in front of the class, and the whole class is contributing to the person's change that's on the table. and the person's change that's on the table is contributing to the whole class, is contributing to the oneness and consciousness of all things. And it is absolutely, I mean, it'll blow your mind totally. So we have him on the radio now, but you may want to actually tap into one of his live streaming classes, either on the internet at home, or you can also purchase one of his energetic synthesis of communion MP3s, which I play constantly because it'll keeps the vibration up in your house or your life or your car, and it's him working on 50 to 150 people. So he's talking, and he's basically changing the energy in all of these bodies who are actually in the room, and when you're listening to it, you'll feel your whole world lighten and change and lighten and change and lighten and change. It's really incredible.
Thank you for that. Wow.
You're welcome. I'm kind of I'm one of your biggest fans, I must say.
Well, I am so grateful. The way you put that, I was like, wow, I want to go do that. I'm like, wait a minute, I do that. Okay, cool. And like, I hope. Thank you. I am speechless. Thank you. One of the interesting things I'd like to say about that is when I got to Access 11 years ago, it was like I was just a guy in his chiropractic office that didn't feel like he did any of his chiropractic techniques very well, and didn't feel like he was doing his relationship very well, and didn't feel like he was handling his money situation very well, and sure as heck didn't have being happy down at all, even though I had all kinds of tools from all kinds of techniques that were supposed to make it happen. And here I am 11 years later, and you're talking about me contributing to magic in the world. And thank you for that. I'm so grateful. And what I'd really like to say to people is, what magic are you that you can't even see now because this reality has pretty much overshadowed it all, that nonetheless is the truth of you that you know, that you just haven't known how to choose. Everything that doesn't allow that door to open for you to choose to be that magic now that you are. Just like Rikka's talking about the magic I am, and you've heard Rikka, you know the magic she is too. What magic are you also? And everything that doesn't allow it to show up, will you just run and create it, please?
Yeah.
Times a godzillion. Right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, pod, poc, shorts, boys, and beyond.
And when you said the truth of you and the magic together, it was like, oh, wow. So the truth of us is not that we're judgeable. It's not that we're wrong. It's not that we did something bad, and it's not that it's our fault. What if the truth of us was actually this magic that's here to change the entire world? It was like, oh, yes, love it.
Yeah. And if you get inspired when you hear that, and that sounds like something that's of interest to you, please come and play. You know, and step up to the party of consciousness, if you will, you know, and whatever that looks like for you. And once again, I say, whether you come to Access Consciousness classes or not, or you know, get our books or CDs or DVDs or whatever, is not the relevant point. Whatever it is for you that keeps that magic alive, that gives you more of it, that bursts more of it, and it truly creates the change that allows that to become your waking reality, that's what you want to go for. So everything that doesn't allow you to know what that is, whatever the heck it is, will you just run and create all that, please?
Yeah.
Times a godzillion, right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, pod, poc, shorts, boys, and beyond.
What if you being you is the gift the world requires? As you know, we're on this program talking about my new book, Being You, Changing the World, and I'd like to invite you to get a free audio copy of a chapter from the book. You go to my website, accessdain.com, ACCESSDAIN.com, and look for the link that says free audio download. It's got a very clever name to it. It's my great pleasure to gift this to you. You don't even have to read it. You can just play it on your computer, or play it on your iPod, or play it on someone else's iPod while they give you a foot massage or something fun like that. Once again, thank you for listening. It's a great pleasure to give you this gift, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I'm enjoying gifting it to you. Please go to accessdain.com and look for the free audio link for the first chapter of my new book. being you, changing the world? What if you being you is the gift the world requires?
All right, everybody, welcome back. Again, I'm interviewing Dr. Dain Heer, who's releasing a book called Being You and Changing the World. And if you are just tapping into this show, you're going to want to rewind it and grab it and download it and have it, because what we've covered tonight is absolutely brilliant and magical, beyond my wildest imagination. So welcome back, Dain.
Thank you so much. So let's talk about a little bit of what it's like to be you and change the world. I'm going to start with a really simple example here. So have you ever had a friend who was having a really bad day and you sensed it somehow you knew it, or they told you, or you could see it on their face or whatever it was, and for that moment you knew that, you know what, I just need to give this person a hug. I need to tell them how cool they are, how beautiful they are, how wonderful they are. And when you gave them that hug, did you feel their whole body change and their whole world change based on one hug from you? That is one tiny example of being you changing the world. Imagine, if you will, what it would be like if you woke up tomorrow and had absolutely no judgments of any kind of you, of your body, of your world, of your life, of your money situation, of your relationship situation, of your living situation. If you had no judgments at all of you, just for one day, what would that be like? Okay, so let's do something a little different. Let's do a little rewind. Imagine if you had woken up this morning and had absolutely no judgment enter your world. No judgment of any kind. You wake up, and rather than having what feels like that elephant sitting on your head where you want to hit the snooze alarm 27 more times, you wake up and you feel strangely alive and grateful to be. Because in the presence of no judgment, gratitude exists. When you can either have judgment and gratitude, you can either have judgment or gratitude, basically, because when you're doing judgment, it eliminates gratitude. When you're being gratitude, there's no reason to judge. Why would you spend that much energy when you could just be space? So imagine you wake up with a sense of possibility and a sense of gratitude for being alive. You go throughout your morning ritual, you kiss your significant other, that's hopefully also your enjoyable other. You're grateful for their presence in your life. You're grateful for your kids. You're grateful for your family. You're grateful for your home. You're grateful for the bed you got to sleep on. You climb into the shower, you feel the hot water on your skin, and you're grateful for its heat and the sensation that it gives your body. You go to your closet and you're grateful for the clothes you get to wear, and not one judgment has entered your universe. So you put those clothes on and you get ready, grateful for the car that you get to drive to work, or the train, or the bus, or the bike that you get to take. And let's say you're in your car and you roll down the windows because it's such a beautiful day that you're grateful for the air blowing into your car. If you're riding your bike, you're so grateful that you get to be out in nature because this wind that you're generating as you ride is exhilarating and enlivening. And you get to your job and you're grateful, number one, that you have a job, grateful for everything that's wonderful about it, and grateful for everything that isn't, because you realize what you'd really like to have in your life. And you're willing to ask that more of that you actually like show up, and that what you don't like can just go away now and change into something different. From that space of gratitude, you have a totally different choice and a totally different possibility. As you go throughout your day with absolutely no judgment, it allows two major things to occur. It allows receiving. Because if you don't have any judgment, you can receive the good, the bad, and the ugly, and it doesn't matter. You can receive being in traffic and still be grateful for it. You can receive people giving you wonderful things and wonderful gifts. You can even be grateful for the people that sneer and are unhappy because you realize you don't have to choose to be that anymore. And so now you've gone throughout your day with absolutely no judgment, and you come home. Is your body in a stressful state, or is it totally relaxed? Are you caring with the people around you, or do you feel separate? And you being that non-judgment, just look through one day of you being non-judgmental. How many people have you changed by their being in your presence? Have you become that 100th monkey, this beacon of light, if you will, that offers other people another possibility for being? From my point of view, judgment is one of the greatest things we do to limit and kill us. It's one of the greatest cancers we are to ourselves, and we choose it. What would it be like if we didn't have to choose it any longer? What would it be like if we could go beyond that to such an extent that we didn't judge anyone or anything ever again, especially and including us, because we are the only ones we ever truly judge anyway? Okay, let's say if you were to choose it, how many of your family members would find it more valuable? And if your family members found it valuable, how many of them would go out into the world and other people they're connected to would find it valuable? Because it's a wonderful way of being in the world. So what I'd invite you to is the possibility of coming out of judgment of you, if you're willing to have it, and being willing to actually have gratitude for you exactly as you are, and gratitude for your capacity to be the beautiful being you are that can change people's lives and realities around you. And everything that doesn't allow you to know it, will you just run and create it, please? Times a gadzillion, right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, pod, poc, shorts, boys, and beyond.
You know, I have tears rolling down my face right now.
And now you're making me too. Beauty that we are, the beauty that we each are, is this amazing gift. And I know when I talk about it, if you're not in the state of receiving it, it sounds like hogwash because you're like, I'm not beautiful, I'm ugly, shut up. You know, what are you selling, that kind of thing. And I'm only selling one thing, you. In other words, it's not a sale. It's like, you know what? We've got to get the amazingness of us if we're going to change the things that need to be changed here. And if you can imagine if every single person on the planet could hold hands and embrace each other with no judgment and total caring and total gratitude. What would that be like? That's the possibility I envision for the world. It's what I would so hope that we would choose. So there's basically three things that I'm going to ask of you. You notice yourself judging, see the stop sign. Second, ask who does this belong to, because 98% of the time it's truly not yours, even when you think it is. And next, destroy and create and pod and pock everything that makes me a slave to judgment.
Thank you so much for joining us. It was such a pleasure, and I have a feeling I'm going to be getting lots of emails about what it's going to take to have you back on the show. So thank you all so very much for joining us.